So here I am once again to share some news with you guys. So OFQUAL has made an announcement with regards to the criteria that they're setting for exams. You can find the links down below. I know some of you are already aware of this, as some of you like to stay ahead of the game. So there has finally been some indicators set by OFQUAL in terms of the criteria that they want teachers and centers to be adhering to in order to provide an estimated grade for students this year. And the biggest update in this is that it appears that private candidates will also undergo the same due process as students that have been studying internally at various schools and colleges. This should hopefully come as a relief, as there are many students in this situation. And just so you are aware about what I mean by private candidates here, I'm talking about students that have been working independently, distant learning, homeschooled, and students that are also resitting. The type of evidence that the examination boards are seeking comprise the following: classwork, pretty self-explanatory there. Bookwork, not entirely sure what they mean by bookwork, but I'm assuming it's a combination of classwork, homeworks, and just a way of checking the progress of students. You got the non-examination assessments. Now, these may or may not be complete in certain cases, because some of the schools may not be in a position where they've been able to complete it because of the school closure and etc. And these are mandatory requirements in attaining certain qualifications, but for this year's spec, they may rule that out. The results of any assignments or mock exams, and again, this explains itself, also including previous examination results, including any resitting students with relevant AS results. And this is why I'm a firm supporter of having students sitting AS exams as opposed to these made-up internal exams that schools like to test the students with, as AS exams, in my opinion, are a much better indicator and have much more weight. Lastly, any records of student performances over the course of the study. So this will be very much down to what the schools individually have been doing in order to assess their students. These are pretty much what the criteria the government have set in place for awarding the qualifications for both GCSEs and A-Levels for this year. Now it gets a little bit interesting because teachers have to also use this new ranking system that they have introduced, and this is based on the likelihood of a student attaining this estimated assigned grade, and teachers have to make a judgment call ranking the likelihood from 1 to however many students are entered for this qualification. The ranking of 1 should be awarded to the most high attaining student. In other words, there's a strong chance that that particular student would have attained this assigned grade. So to put this into perspective, if there were to be, let's say, 10 students entered for maths and a teacher estimated that 3 students are likely to get a grade 9, the teacher would then also be required to rank from 1 to 3 the likelihood of the students getting that particular grade. I know this can be confusing, and I hope you understood what I just had to say. This is precisely why within this published document, there is a line that states there may be cases where some students may not get awarded the grades because of a lack of evidence, and this of course will be down to the schools and centers to determine what constitutes as relevant and authentic data to present. Because at the end of the day, the exam boards do want schools and centers to retain the evidence that can be presented on request. And this is why heads of schools and heads of centers will be held accountable for this. Furthermore, OFQUAL have also stated that in order to ensure that grades are awarded as fairly as possible across schools and colleges, all of these assigned grades presented will undergo a due process of standardization using a model that is currently being developed by OFQUAL, which they have yet to state what this precisely will be, leaving an air of mystery as they like to do so these days with every announcement that they make. But something tells me it's not going to be as cool or as exciting as the release of a new Tesla. The likelihood is that they will be ironing out discrepancies to ensure that the pattern does follow previous years. This is what I seem to think will happen. Now, centers and teachers alike have been informed not to share the estimated grades that we award to students, and I can understand this. This makes perfect sense. You know, you don't want kids pestering you at a time when you're going to be bombarded with all of this, and especially that kid that's annoyed the living hell out of you throughout the entire year all of a sudden decides to message you and send you emails with more emoji characters than actual alphabetic letters. Also, as I mentioned in one of my previous videos regarding how the teacher's grades is also not necessarily set in concrete. It's merely just one of the factors, definitely a strong one, but not necessarily the definitive one, as it seems all of the power lies with the exam boards, as they will be the final determiners of your grades. Following all of this, OFQUAL did reiterate in this latest documentation that students will also have the opportunity to sit exams at the earliest opportunity in the new academic year. Again, dates haven't been set for this yet, so they are still working on this. And this is precisely why I've also mentioned in my past videos that you shouldn't have necessarily stopped revising or studying. And reasons for that is that I'm going to be very clear on this point, since the document has stated that there is no further requirement to set additional work or mock exams. Now, before anyone jumps the gun here, I would say from my own interpretation of this line is that yes, there may not be a requirement because they primarily don't wish to enforce it, especially when all of this is going on and teachers are being burdened with, putting the information together. So I can understand this. But having said this, when it comes to private candidates, there won't be centers that will have your work available at the get-go. So in that case, what are you supposed to do? And of course, this will come down to each center's discretion. I know what I would do. This is primarily why I have stated previously that you guys should continue to study and work, as this can substantiate to further evidence. But also on this point, if let's say you don't get what you desire, or perhaps even the teacher's estimated grade doesn't work out for you either, then we might be talking in the middle of August, as this is when they're proposing to release the results, even though they did state they would be doing that in July previously, but they did say that they would be trying to get it as soon as they can. So when results do come out, and if exams were to take place in September, then you're looking at a month to get ready. And bear in mind, you would have already had a few months off, so you'll be shooting yourself once again. Okay, I hope this clarifies a little bit more for all of you guys out there. Again, I very much think this is an individual by individual case. If any of you have any burning questions, then I will be doing an Instagram live session on Monday at 2 p.m. You can find us on Instagram at ateamacad. There's a link down below where you can join me and ask any relevant questions to this subject area, especially those private candidates. I think it will be very much useful to yourselves. Also, on that note, make sure to subscribe to the channel, leave a comment down below, and I'll be updating with any further upcoming updates. My name is Amin, and I will catch up with you another time.